Heather, thank you for your guidance, preparation you provided me the last 2 years. Pat, thank you for all the things you do and more, and especially the one chocolate chip cookie I have each month. I will miss all of you. Keep up doing the good work and never forget it's all about the kids. Thank you.
I know I speak on behalf of the community and all of our colleagues that you've added such a great perspective to our board meetings, and we really enjoy your participation, your point of view, and your preparation. And so please stay in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And maybe we'll see you coaching a football team.
Maybe you will.
Okay, good. Okay, before we get into the public comments, and we'll do that, just in terms of if I can get Mary out of here, if I could ask board members to turn to Roman or 3A, and someone could make that motion.
I move that the state board adopt the changes to the final provision for ED 504 professional credentials to comply with the conditional approval for rule filing 2013-111.
Any questions, Mary? You don't need to comment on it, but you're ready to raise down? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you ready to roll? The letters are signed. Okay, public comment. The only parameter is that we ask you to limit to 5 minutes, and that if we have questions on what you're saying, we'll ask those clarifying questions, but we'll not get into a give and take. So, please, I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, just give me a break
Just for everybody.
for the holidays.
For the TV audience, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Dunham. I live in Merrimack, New Hampshire. I'm here today as a concerned citizen and as the chair of the State Advisory Committee on the Education of Children with Disabilities. And I wanted to make you aware of a recently approved change in New Hampshire's Medicaid rules that could have a disastrous implication for school districts, and particularly their special education budgets. The new language, and I can give Pat a copy of this one large print page afterwards. The new language in HEW 530.05B25 states that non-covered Medicaid services shall include duplicative services, which are services that deliver the same functionality to the same recipient during the same period of time, regardless of whether those services are provided solely under Medicaid or by Medicaid in combination with another program or entity. Multiple groups, including parents, advocates, health and disability organizations, school district administrators, special education administrators, and others, expressed concern with the lack of clarity in the rule, particularly around the phrases deliver the same functionality and during the same period of time. The State Advisory Committee on the Education of Children with Disabilities echoed those concerns and raised fears that this language could discourage parents of children with disabilities from allowing their school districts to access Medicaid through the Medicaid to Schools program. For example, if a very medically fragile child receives nursing care during the school day for health reasons, and also receives nursing services Medicaid funded at home in the evening so his parents can sleep at night, question would be, is that during the same period of time? Is that for the same functionality? And honestly, parents are not going to be willing to take that chance and worry that they may lose services that they desperately need to keep their child at home. And so instead, they will simply refuse to grant access to their child's Medicaid at schools, which will, in the long run, result in millions of dollars lost to school district budgets. It's a huge hardship for school districts. So at our January 8th meeting, the State Advisory Committee unanimously voted with very little discussion to request that the Commissioner of the New Hampshire Department of Ed develop a joint memorandum with the Commissioner of the Department of Health and Human Services to clarify the language in that one paragraph rule by stating that a child's receipt of Medicaid to schools funded services, which by definition are related to the child's provision of a free appropriate public education, does not impede the child's ability to receive Medicaid funded services outside of school, and both must be medically necessary under the Medicaid rules. Any assistance that the State Board of Education can provide to protect the integrity and availability of the Medicaid to Schools funding and to prevent parents from having to jeopardize services that their children desperately need outside of school if they allow their schools to access their child's Medicaid would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any clarifying questions for Bonnie?
And I'll leave a copy, just because it has the exact language in that rule, so just ignore the part about my name and whatever.
I'll never ignore your name.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public comment?
Can I ask you one question?
Oh, sure.
How far along in the process is this, Bonnie? Is this just been presented? Is it actually through the
Jalcar
committee?
approved it.
Oh, Jalcar approved it?
Yes.
Oh, so we're
Yes,
pretty far along.
the Medicaid people favored it, said they didn't believe it would change anything. They thought it was crystal clear. 100% of the people who provided written or oral testimony disagreed. The Jalcar, members of Jalcar stated that they were going to be watching to see if it did have a negative impact. I'm not sure how easy it is to unring that bell. Representative Ladd, Hatch, and Senator Betty Lasky all opposed. So it was a 5-3 vote.
Can we have that like emailed to us? I'd just like to be able to read what you just,
Absolutely.
yeah, just because it's listening, I don't have
Sure,
it all
and that's why I
here.
gave her a written copy, so she can copy it.
We know your visual, Greg, that's an okay request. Anybody else? Doris?
Good morning, I'm Doris Horsey from Nashua, New Hampshire. I just had a follow-up on the ED 306 minimum standards. It was canceled at the last minute from Jalcar, saying that there were too many questions, but the public wasn't told what those questions are. I hope it's a parental notification for psychological services and also the inclusion of competencies, which is a big problem because we have the second bill on competencies going through the legislature, Senate Bill 82, which is on the docket to be killed, ITL. It was like 18-0. It will go before the House floor on the next session. And the reason they gave was because it's already in the districts. So you're having a bill that went twice to the legislature. The legislature was proposing to study or set up a commission, and then the commission was going to propose language to install competencies. And the House Education Committee says, but it's already in our district. So somebody's going beyond the scope of the law, and our concern is those are in ED 306. They need to be pulled out and keep pace with what goes through the legislature. So when Paul Lever gives his update, I'm hoping that we get some information, because it's been a month. They're gonna meet this Friday,
yeah.
the 17th, and we'd like a copy of what the update is, what the concerns were, and if our concerns have been met. So we're kind of at a loss for the last
Yeah,
month.
Paul had to go to the State House, and he did mention for you about that on Friday's Jalcar meeting, the psychological services was one of the issues.
Well, competencies is another big issue.
Yeah,
So
well, I'm not sure.
hopefully that it'll be addressed or it'll delay it again. I don't know which, but it's a serious issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Doris. In the meantime, the old minimum standards of what remain in play. When Paul gets back, but I can tell you at least one of those two things he did mention before we left. Anything, any other public comment? Okay, so I'll move to, we did the conditional approval, I'll do the open board discussion, starting with an update on charter schools. Really, nothing more to report. As everybody knows, this board has approved 22 charter schools, 18 are in operation. If you exclude the virtual learning academy numbers and exclude the 4 that are opening this fall, the numbers I have are that there are about 1,993 charter school students divvied up by the 18 that are in operation, and the 4 schools, the Founders Academy, Gate City, Granite State, Arts and Dairy, and the Mountain Village School, Plymouth, they're still at this point scheduled to open in the fall of 2014. As I reported last time, the Founders Academy, which was to open up this January, there's no problem, but they are actually going to be opening up in the fall. And we're well aware of the potential charter school laws that that are out there, and we'll just take our leave from the citizen legislature. Yes,
I received an email that talked about there's a proposal to increase the funding in charter schools. Would that do anything to our decision-making process? It just changes the amount for existing schools?
it doesn't change our decision-making. And I see Mel Myler in the audience, he was there, but that still remains to be seen if that passes, but doesn't change.
Doesn't
our
affect
process.
what we, is before us.
And to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a ripe application that's about to be presented to us. Though that could change, I'm sure. Okay, Mel, thank you for, by the way, I was trying to introduce Mel Myler, who's on the education committee. You're just observing. If you want to jump in anytime, feel free. Hopefully I stated that correctly. Okay, Dr. Fillion and Jeff, our friends from Unity.
Good morning. We're heartened by the progress in Unity, and Jeff will describe that for you.
Good morning, everybody. And as you may recall, last time I was there, I was feeling pretty optimistic about the plans and the progress that was being made, but unfortunately, the reality is the architect continues to make submittals to the fire marshal's office, and they continue to fall short of the requirements of what they need to have happen to lift the stop work order. So I don't know how many other ways I can say it. The architect continues to be the roadblock in this project and moving forward, unfortunately. Other things that are going on, yesterday I was contacted by the Unity Board's lawyer, who started asking me a bunch of what-if questions about different scenarios moving forward, etc. How much of that information is public, I'm not sure yet, so to respect the board's and their attorney-client information, I'm just going to let them provide the update relative to what's going on locally, because there's a bunch of things happening on a local level, and I'm just not sure what they're willing to make public at this point in time, so I'll let them do that. Big picture-wise, I mean, from the start of school in August or beginning of September, we're only 7.5 to maybe 8 months away, and there's an awful lot of stuff that still has to happen to get that building open. Hopefully they are doing things locally to do that, but I mean, big picture-wise, there certainly is a lot of things that need to happen to reach that goal. So, I mean, besides that, I'll leave it at that, I guess, unless you have specific questions for me, but yes.
Jeff, is the fire marshal getting back to the architect saying, nope, here's the problem, and this is why it can't be lifted? So that communication is going.
Absolutely, yes. And they make submittals to the fire marshal's office. It gets reviewed by their plan review, and they submit letters, requesting more information. And as you read through these letters, the same items on there for the last 6 months, and they're just not getting responded to. So what's going on?
Thank you.
And Sean Randall, the chair of the board, is here, and Bob McDevitt, who's on the board, is here, and Matt Upton, who is representing them, is here as well. And I'm sure they have quite a bit to tell you.
Before you leave the table, some of you may know Jeff got a terrific new job, so he'll be leaving the department. So congratulations, Jeff, you've done a great job monitoring and shepherding this project, and hopefully one day on your new job you'll receive an email from Sean saying that it's complete. But I want to thank you for your service, and congratulations on your new job.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I appreciate that.
Very good. Okay, Sean and team.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Upton.
Morning, Matt.
Good morning, my name is Matt Upton, I'm in the law firm of Drummond Wilson. We've been retained approximately 2 weeks ago to come in and assist the board in unraveling this project and moving it forward. The board is mindful of the timeline and the ability to get this building open and operational for the start of school in September of 2014. Yesterday, the board hired Trumbull Nelson to be the construction manager of the project. They've got a full team they've put together to assist the board in moving the building forward. We had a meeting this morning with Ron Anstey at the fire marshals, and we're putting a plan in place to get the stop work order lifted either in whole or in part, to get heat in the building, at the windows, get the building buttoned up, and move this project forward. Vaughn and Associates, because they're no longer charged with construction management, can focus more on the architectural requirements. We're going to have Trumbull Nelson working with Vaughn Associates to make sure that the communication that's coming from the fire marshal's office results in the fire marshal's office getting the necessary plans that they need. If we continue to have any further delays from the current architect, we're going to do what it takes to get those drawings, even if we have to have another architect come in and assist in the process. I've explained to the board at this stage, there really can be no further delays. This building has to open in September of 2014, and we're going to do what it takes to get it open. And I think we have a professional team now that's involved. With Trumbull Nelson, they've committed some of their highest resources to the project, and we feel that we can get this building moving.
Any questions for Matt or Sean?
I remember back, I don't know how many months, the question of bonds and them being bonded. If there's a construction management company just brought in, is there an issue with bonds and has to be covered?
Now, any work that will be done on the building will be in accordance with the bonding requirements for any work over $35,000.
It sounds like it's moving, and, you know, with all these new people and getting a new architect, but it sounds like there'd be more money involved. I was wondering, you know, are you going to have to go back to the taxpayers? Is there going to be an increase in the budget? Are there going to have to be cutbacks on something, you know, to equalize what you may have to spend?
Trumbull Nelson's going to get us a not-to-exceed price to finish the work in a professional manner. We hope to have that by February 11th. If there is additional bonding that's going to be required, it will be on the warrant for the March annual district meeting. I've already explained to them the deadlines for making sure that we have those bond hearings in accordance with the law, which have to occur by February 24. So we've got a plan in place. Trumbull Nelson has agreed to assist the district in bringing the project forward. There will be additional expense.
What happens if you put it to the voters in March and they say, we're frustrated, no? What happens then if that doesn't get passed?
I'm not certain it's an option for the community. The cost of tuitioning the children to another school district such as Claremont, where the children are now, in addition to the bond repayment obligations, would make it cost prohibitive. It's much more cost effective to finish the building.
So Matt and Sean, again, forgive me, but, we've heard these things before. So I'm not going to judge it. I mean, obviously I'm hoping it happens, but are we still at least thinking about having a conversation with Claremont about 2014, 15?
Superintendent Mick Goodwin is in the process of doing that now with the Claremont School Board. So there has been communication.
Because I'm sure I know you're very genuine and you understand, that, failure is not an option and it has to open by fall of 2014, but those sort of work like that were used for the fall of 2013. So I just want to make sure that at least we're starting the conversation, with Claremont for the 2014.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir. And good luck, and we'll see you the day before Valentine's Day, February 13th. It's a Thursday, so it's clear the date, and we'll see you again. And Jeff and Dr. Fillion, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm all set.
So, thanks again, Jeff, and thank you guys for coming in.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I would like to add that we have just received another $200,000 donation from New Hampshire Charitable Trust.
Nice.
So
Very good.
I think our total now is around $600,000 that we have in donations.
Great.
That's nice.
Use it well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, you recall that Ellen asked that we spend some quality time, 30 minutes or so, which we can. I want 5 minutes for some other loose ends, and then we can get on to the presentations at 10 to talk about prioritizing the different things that we talked about at the strategic retreat. So you may recall a couple meetings ago, we had a draft of taking the notes from that strategic retreat and putting it into some form of dashboard. So obviously one overarching goal that we've had for forever and have had some relative success to is eliminating the high school dropout rate. And then second goal is to improve the charter school processes, and you can read the rest. So I guess, Helen, I'll turn it over to you and colleagues in terms of how do you see the priorities, and do you think this is an adequate reflection on this dashboard of our retreat, and it's intended just to be a draft. And for everybody else, I'll just again mention them. Eliminate the high school dropout rate, charter school processes, successful implementation of CCRS, continue to emphasize and support STEM, improve educator support evaluation systems, alternative education programs, improve the effectiveness of the State Board of Education, successful implementation of minimum standards, which we did do our job last year, but as you heard from Doris, it's now in GeoCard. Strengthen relationships with other educational associations, continue to work with the state institution for higher education to ensure people are qualified to be effective educators. I know we spent a lot of time on that. And improve reporting structures, including designing dashboard metrics on charter schools, for example. And we got a package on that last time. So. How would you like to prioritize this or allocate it?
I promise I want to do it all. It's also important in this kind of thing. You know, on some of the things like the CCRS, the College and Career Ready Standards, and STEM and these type things, I really, you know, and how would the board like to participate in this work and professional development and all those type of things, I would just like more, as the meetings go, more awareness of what is going on. All the, you know, awareness each month, not an update every single month on every single item, but so that we know what the professional development, you know, the statewide, like the New Hampshire networks that I was not that aware of, that, you know, was going on forward. What's going on with STEM, what's going on with college and career, you know, to make sure that we are aware of not only just this huge broad picture, but what's actually happening in a lot of the districts. I think we need to know more. I hate to say the old term where the rubber meets the road, but I'd like to really know more specifics of what is going on and how, what's our role with these types of things, issues.
Good point. Because there is a lot going, and I'll talk about the Business and Education Coalition, but there's a lot of terrific things going on, as Gary will tell you, but we don't have that kind of common thread of communicating them or putting them into some sort of best practice database or whatever.
I don't want to take all the time, but one other issue that I would really like us to think about is the collaboration relationship with the other, education associations, stakeholders, policymakers. It's a small state, and I think the more we can work with the NEA New Hampshire and the superintendents and the principals and all of them, and just make sure that we're all heading in the same direction. I think we're doing, when the Institute of Higher Education, all of the private and public colleges of education are getting together to really look at all their goals. I think we should do even more to reach out to all of our other groups involved, associations, and see what can we do together. And school boards, I'm sorry, I didn't mention.
Policies.
Yeah, we're the
School boards.
we're both on this, on local school boards, but most definitely all of the associations. Maybe I wouldn't do that because it was me.
So Cindy, are you suggesting that the two things that you've talked about should be our 1 and 2 goals? I'm just trying to
I
figure
don't
out
know.
how.
I want to hear what other people, to me, those are two big goals. What's going on, how can we facilitate anything to know what needs to be? And I think through looking at some of the first ones, we'll get a better picture on what other ones should be our priorities, whether it's, the STEM thing, whether it's reducing the dropout rate. A lot of those will come through a better awareness of what's going on locally.
So just as a general comment, Will, I certainly appreciate you prioritizing these things, because there is so much going on. And I think a lot of this is integral to what we're doing. I think while we're prioritizing, we also have to be somewhat cognizant that our priorities are gonna be what? An emergent process? Because some of these things are gonna gain momentum with time. And we might wanna be synergetic with those efforts. So priorities, yes, but some nimbleness and flexibility as we move along.
Yeah, The first one, decrease the dropout rate. Obviously, I'm very concerned about that. I think Governor Lynch made it a priority during his administration, and I don't see that same focus now, whether it's from school districts or the administration now. They're not focusing as much as Governor Lynch did on that, spending a lot of time trying to get that dropout rate down to 0. He did a good job, I thought, and being in that field, but I think the dropout rate's gone up. It's gone up nationally, it's also gone up in the state of New Hampshire without a doubt. You can look at the numbers. I think that should be focused more on, not as a priority, but involved with the rest of the goals we have.
Well, I'm looking, I took them from essentially what would be the face page, I guess, just numbered them. Like what we have at the top of the page would decrease the dropout rate. So I say, okay, the first one, the second one, the 6th one, and the 9th one, if you in order, would all relate to the dropout rate. There's, so the second one is, improve charter school policies. Maybe there's something in there that we can strengthen. I would use North Country Charter Academy, which is dropout prevention, graduated 300 and something at-risk students. So maybe there's something through charter against dropout rate. We could do a broader statewide model rather than the one school in the North Country that I'm aware of. 6, alternative ed programs and dropout rate. And then 9, relationship with education, other education associates, stakeholders, policymakers. Who's out there, what programs they have, how would that we find strengthen reductions in dropout rates? So to me, when you take these individually, where do they overlap? Because if you're going to prioritize, what is it? How does it really mean? And I agree with Gary that what's priority this month might fall to 3rd in 2 or 3 months. You have to be fluid with that.
If I could just speak to them, and Gary, I completely agree and understand what you're saying. When this board cited dropout rate as our #1 priority, we focused attention on it at every meeting. We had data provided to us on a regular time period. We heard from various entities throughout the state that had dropout prevention programs. Sort of, I don't think there's anything on here that we'd say we're disinterested in.
Mm-hmm.
We're interested in all of this. But in order to focus our attentions and make sure we can have some measurable progress, and the dropout rate went down. Success sort of makes me want to say, okay, when we focused on a couple of things that really mattered, and all of this matters, and we wanted to devote our attention to, versus there's nothing on here that I wouldn't want to at a meeting hear about and hear what's going on, and there may be ways for us to try and be more involved. But I think if we leave it at this number of things without saying, we really are going to pay attention for the next 12 months, or whatever period of time, to STEM efforts or IHEs, or more than one, it doesn't have to be one, I think we will not get those same kinds of results. And I'm not advocating getting rid of anything on here, just I think it would do us good to say we would like to focus on versus have goals in certain areas, but I think a focus and attentiveness on some of these areas would help us focus and make sure we're mobilizing all the resources that are out there. And I think when we did that with Dropout, we really paid attention to it. And
So, what we're saying is that all of these things are important. I totally agree with Helen on you are what you measure. And Coach, you'll read that in the book, but I know from a corporate perspective, all of our balanced scorecard goals are plastered all over our campus, and we achieve those every year. It's always in your face, just like our vision and mission. So no one would ever say that any of these things are not important. It's just like, what do you want to routinely see at the top of every board meeting on a dashboard metric? So we've made an attempt, you recall, the charter school dashboard metric, we weren't fully satisfied with it, but I think that's really what we're trying to make sure that we always cover at the beginning of every board meeting. You know, if it is charter school policy, that's there. If it is STEM, that we get those dashboard metrics, because Helen is correct, at least until the last year or so, that the high school dropout rate was actually being reduced. And maybe Jim's right, maybe now it has spiked since then for various reasons, but when we were looking at it every month, it was going down. That's it.
I see what you're saying. To me, like what Greg says, I think, let's face it, part of the dropout rate was the fact that it went to 18 years old. I mean, that was the biggest jump, because if you couldn't drop out till you were 18, you had to stay around longer, and there was a better chance that you were going to get enough credits to graduate. But beyond that, and even at the time we talked about the age of 18, we kept saying, but you have to make sure, as Coach knows, that what they're getting is making them college and career ready, and that we're dealing with the at-risk students, and we're really looking at alternative education. And, there's so many good programs at individual schools throughout the state or individual districts. And I think we can bring some of these other goals into the dropout rate, because making sure that we're really reaching out to all students, that we're really making them college and career ready, working on making sure the professional development is really good for all the teachers in the state, increasing the awareness of the New Hampshire networks, and I think Heather's Gage has been very integral in working with, that all the good ideas throughout the state are shared, that we become aware of what are the good ideas, how can the best practices be shared, how can we work better, with the local districts, how can all of those, as I said before, all of the stakeholders, including the state boards of education, how can we all make sure that kids are staying in school because we're really preparing them for college and career? And to me, that's the dropout prevention program. Not just, looking at things, just saying, gee, we want to keep them there. How are we going to make it really worthwhile for them to stay there and get ready?
We don't want to solve it here today, by the way.
No, but I'm saying put other things into that.
I think we can.
Many of these will fit into that.
Chris?
To me, it's like, you can talk and talk and talk until you get something that's actionable.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't really done much of anything. Talk is really great. I've been just long enough on the school boards that I realize in education a lot of things just grind at a very slow pace of change. But like the college and career ready, I mean, that's would be a great one to look into. You hear it a lot. Sounds great, and I hear constantly we get kids, they get up in a remedial type math in college. They never learn how to properly research at the college level, so they can't do papers. So we say, yep, college career ready, but we're sending kids to college coming out of our public high schools that aren't ready at a very, I guess a pretty good number, percentile. I don't know if there's any statistics on that, but that'd be an interesting thing to try and figure out. How ready are they when they actually get there? And I think in our own district, we don't actually track, like, did they actually get through their degree? Did they drop out? Why did they drop out? And so what are we really doing? Are we actually college and career ready?
That would be a good goal.
Yeah. So there, as far as the focus is, how do we get data that shows that what's already in place is working at a high level, or is it mediocre? And if it's mediocre, what do we do to actually make it something that makes a substantial difference in their lives? So I would actually take that one, put it right near the top. Quite frankly.
College and career ready, you're suggesting?
Because, yeah, it seems to be, we're hearing more and more about it. It would cross over to STEM and what we're trying to do with changing and evolving of career and tech ed. All these things kind of play into that. Well, are we actually meeting our goals?
Dropout rate. If they're college and career ready, they're not dropping out of school. We're improving everything to the point.
Means they got their credits.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're college or
No, but I mean, if we're working toward college
Yes.
and career ready.
So I look at, well, how do we, I don't know within who tracks what data, how do we get to something that we could actually look at and understand what's going on?
You listening to this, Heather?
I'm writing it down for you.
I'm full
So
of big
it's-
ideas, Heather.
It seems as though successful implementation of college and career ready standards and emphasis and support STEM might be able to be put together in some examination, maybe
Well, that was my
if that
point
is
about
in
one,
fact.
the first one I mentioned, was that some of these are so overlapping, maybe we can consolidate these.
Oh, I think,
Down.
I think we have to.
Yep.
In many of these.
Find where the strong connections are, and reduce them
figure
to a
out
smaller number.
Which components of them we really, wanna do. I wonder if there are any we can,
Eliminate the last two.
we can,
Why don't we have nothing for Heather?
Heather,
and I
you got
guess
that?
improve,
I didn't want you to think that your opportunities had ended. So.
I see.
improve reporting structures really
That's
is
been
something
done
that goes through all of these. That's not like a specific, whatever our goals are, we're looking for a more effective
Yeah, we want more.
report, right? So that one sort of gets encompassed. I personally think that given where we are with the IHEs and the fact that we're the only state in the nation where all the IHEs have come together to try and say, we need to examine how we are running our programs, how we are educating educators, that we need to take as significant a role as they have in school, in program approval, and making sure that we hold everyone's feet to the fire too, in terms of making sure that there are quality programs and that the evaluation system is important. I think it all relates, if we are insisting on high standards for our educators from the educator evaluation program that we have, we also need to make sure that the schools are doing their part. I don't think we can divorce that at all, so that's something that I think is an incredibly high priority for us. I think we're doing a lot of it, but I think we need to do more.
Well, and right in line with that is looking at what are the other states doing if they don't have the group like we do with they all got together. But also with that group, it's like the fox starting the hen house. What's the checks and balances against whatever they present as saying, oh, this is the way to go. So checks and balances, and also looking at what have other states done, performance levels, competency of the graduates coming out of their ed programs, all those things could play into looking at what comes out of our higher ed committee there. That's not necessarily directly us, but it's a system of checks and balances.
And
We could
that's
ask
part of our program approval.
Yeah.
And so I think they're built in, and the new processes are going to include outside groups doing the evaluations, not just our own.
Yeah.
One program evaluating another, which is probably gonna help. That's neither here nor there, sorry, I digress.
Emma, Gary?
I think this is a good direction. I think student achievement really is at the base of everything that we're doing. So I think naming that as a priority makes a lot of sense. And as you've all said, a lot of these things will be subsumed under that. Teacher effectiveness, higher ed preparation, it's all about student achievement. And in terms of better data and knowing how well we're doing, I think Mike Schwartz would be an excellent presenter for us in terms of knowing what the department can tell us about how our students are doing. I know I just read something from Education Commission of the States, which zips out a daily report on what's going on around the country. It's a great resource, very brief. Anyway, they reported that only 20-something% of high school sophomores within 10 years have achieved a higher ed degree. And we could probably tell what that is in New Hampshire too.
There's more females than males
Yeah.
going to college or completing college now.
Right.
There's some things there that kind of
Right.
Changed in our society.
Right.
What's that factor?
Right.
What's the message the males are getting in high school that's sending them off to, I don't know,
Grade school.
NASCAR
They said it
drivers
starts
or
in grade school.
rappers or something.
Starts in grade school with the guys.
Yeah.
They decide by the fourth grade whether or
Yeah.
not they're gonna continue.
So Heather, you think we can get Mike to present?
Of course.
I know we had one in our own, I can't remember, the specifics. So the individual graduated at the very top of the class, like within the top, might have been 2, 3. Got to college and had to go into like this remedial math program. Actually could not function at the college level mathematics, top of the class in high school.
We've listened to Paul Holloway on that.
Was that, yeah?
We get it.
So- But I mean, that's important.
Yeah,
We're
I
not
agree.
doing something right.
And I think will become hopefully an evolving process. We'll start with the data, which is
Mhm.
one component, then you look at it, but then we need to move beyond the data to the effective districts that, and, you know, many times that, not the top demographics, but, you know, that are really doing good things and having good results. What are they doing? How can we then share this, not only data, but the best practices? What's the method of which it can be help the districts that need help? How can we facilitate that? You know, to start from research to action plans, and that's what I'd like to see us move toward more. And we need to become aware of everything first before we can develop any action plans. And obviously, these are things you probably already know without me saying them.
Tom, I wonder if, I think Emma's categorization of this as, you know, student achievement is a good one, and a lot of this falls under that. Do you think we could maybe have a mini retreat with department staff, with the commissioner, with Paul, with Heather, probably, to sort of flesh out a little bit more of our goals and objectives under this category, using what we've come up with, but I think we need to flesh things out a little bit more. But I'd like to hear from the department areas in which we can be of assistance and help move the agenda forward for student effective.
I'm sure Heather would like a lot of assistance from us people up here. So what I would suggest, though, Helen, I agree, we need another retreat, but what I would suggest, Heather, you took all this in, right? And maybe you can do up the groupings that were described, you know, what Greg and Emmett said, and also like the idea of the student achievement. And we put this into those groupings, and at the February meeting, come back with it in those groupings, and then at that point, set up a date for, you know, another retreat. But I want to make sure, Heather, you heard loud and clear that we really want more analytics in general. We're starting to get them on charter schools and so forth, but we just need those routinely at the top of every board meeting on all of the objectives. Because I really did think it worked with getting those high school dropout rates, you know, routinely, as a simple example. And then we just have to. I also don't want to get in danger of something I call, data rich and information poor. It speaks to what you're saying, Cindy, which is ultimately, I go to all the meetings that everybody goes to, and Gary, we hear all this stuff, the kids not going to college and the STEM and all that, but then we need ultimately, this has to result in some actionable item for both as a board and as a department staff. So. You've taken all this in. I would say if you could make a third version of this, come back, and then if the categorization and the groupings are reflective of today's discussion, then at that point we can set up another retreat. Is that?
And what we may do if it's amenable is that we could do operational and strategic kind of goals.
Right.
So we'll group them, in the way that you've described, but in addition to that, it may be helpful to see them where the data reporting and those kinds of things is more operational, but what we do with that information and what our goals are more strategic.
And I just want to caution my colleagues, I understand the groupings, and they're all, all of life is related if you take it from the highest level, but ultimately you still have to, whether you make it, 3 major things with 10 subgroupings or 13 things, you still ultimately have to prioritize. And so we still ultimately have to get to that, get to that point. So, okay, Heather? Thank you. So we'll, if we could, Pat, put this again on the agenda for February 13th, and then if the sheet then becomes acceptable to us, then we can set up another mini retreat that Helen described. So thank you, Helen, for suggesting that we talk about this without feeling like we're being rushed. We're a little bit ahead, so you can still talk on it if you want. You good? You good over there, Heather?
Great.
You are, okay.
Thank you. Since we're minute hand, I just want to say one thing, and that's, recently, I'm involved in the Principal of the Year Committee, and it reminds me of some of the, as we've looked at the principals, and some of the schools that, you've got to give them credit, instead of saying, oh my goodness, what can we do? Like Hampton School, Marston School, and Hampton, they have Hampton Beach, and they have a lot of students that live in those from like October to April in those little tiny cottages people rent for the summer. They have, the $1 Million Homes on the Hampton overlooking the water. Instead of saying, oh my goodness, what can we do? They have developed an incredible plan for really reaching out to all of those students to make sure that this subgroup within their school gets the quality of education that they can get. It's incredible what they've done and how they've moved, not only their scores, but the achievement levels of these kids. One was in Peterborough. They've developed an amazing plan in their high school where there's a 45-minute segment every day where on the computer you sign up and you go get with some teacher in the school, and you decide, or the teacher decides, every single day you get the kids that need help, get help, the kids that need reteaching, the kids that need extra projects. I mean, they have just within their systems, without expending a tremendous amount of money, have done amazing things. As I've talked to other schools with, things that I do outside of this work, it's amazing what could be and should be shared. And that's why I'm saying I really want to get to these actionable plans where what are you doing and how are you doing it and how are you making these things happen without spending a ton of money and spinning your wheels. And that's why it's exciting.
And Helen knows this, but we've always remarked around the State Board of Ed for years, at least since I've been in 2007, we have these great presentations and we're just absolutely amazed, middle schools that you've never heard of, all this exciting stuff going on. And there is a section on the website, we don't call it best practices, but there is a section on there that I think we need to make that more robust, because I agree with Cindy, there's so much of the good stuff going on, but it just needs to be shared, whatever. I need to cover just a few other things. One, did everybody, I said maybe Greg, did everybody pass in their financial form? You don't have to do that, Jim, since you're going off, but there's that. You passed it, okay. He's got it, okay. And Heather, can you comment, since you're there instead of me, on your communications project briefly?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So, So we have been working with, it's in combination with our New Hampshire networks that you mentioned earlier, Cindy, where we're trying to tell the story, I shouldn't say the best stories, the spotlights in New Hampshire of promising practices, great things that are happening in the school districts, but also more broad than that is talking to higher ed, our chancellors of higher ed, also the business community and other stakeholders like the governor will be talking with us about what they see as the great things that are happening in education around the state, not only now, but what's the evolution, what has that been over the past several years, and where do we want to go? And so what we want to do is highlight that and put together a publication, if you will, that will be online. And if you haven't received a link to what we're thinking that it could look like, I'll send that to you. It's the New York Times article, and Paul, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, of course, but I will send you the link to it. And basically what it does is it tells a story, but embedded in the story is a video clip of somebody talking about what that story is on. So if we're talking about college and career readiness or student achievement, you'll be reading a little bit about where New Hampshire has come and where we want to go, and then there'll be video clips of educators talking about what's happening in their school and what they're doing around that area. And so it'll be, I hope, a very well done piece that will be available to all. And we'll do some hard copies, but of course that won't have the video clips, it won't be as robust. But we're really excited about it. We're committed to making sure that we're telling folks what great things are happening out there. We get knocked down a lot in education, and so, like you said, Cindy, there's just some phenomenal things happening, and some great vision from all of the entire education spectrum, and so we're really excited about it, but it's all connected to that New Hampshire network strategy of how do we share our best practices and stories so that we can take pieces of it and help our individual schools.
You know, Heather, with all this, I think that we need to, through all, you know, it's wonderful, but it amazed me how few people, principals and superintendents that I've talked to, were aware of the New Hampshire networks. We need to probably, if you could reach out to the School Boards Association, the principals, the superintendents, and all of these in groups, so that they can really start through all of their networking to make people aware. Go to the website for the Department of Education, because it's improved so dramatically, but we need a good publicity job on what's there.
Right.
You know, that would be great. I mean, to really get them involved in publicizing.
Absolutely, and we do some of that, but we can always get better. Absolutely.
So, I think I'm being videoed at 2. This meeting isn't
That's
over,
right,
so,
yeah, we need to make sure he's out of here.
so I can have lunch back. Okay, thank you, Heather. All right, speaking of other great stuff going on, the Business and Education Coalition met yesterday. Gary attends with me, as does Paul and Ginny, and it's a group of educators, business leaders, public policy folks, and we had three great presentations, one on F-score, one on brain power, and one on something called 10,000 Mentors. I only mention this because, once again, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and the purpose of this group is to get more businesses involved, as well as to what Heather just said in terms of the PR part of this, is to share all the STEM initiatives that are going on, including what Dine is doing with West High School, full steam ahead, that they call it. So that group is pretty active, and we've had 5 meetings now, and virtually every meeting's had about 40 people there, and these are really busy people that wouldn't show up if there wasn't you know, a real objective. And we also have some political leaders there. Senator Mary Guile, Representative Guile usually comes, Senator Wally Kelly. And then you recall Emma went out to Los Angeles, and so there is a follow-up of the Improving Student, we call that the Improving Student Learning at a Scale grant. And so Emma's volunteered, I think, to
It's just like the Army volunteering
the
thing.
local meeting. She said she smiled when she said yes.
Oh,
That's
okay.
January 27th, 9 to 12. That's local though, you don't have to get on a plane. So thank you for, so Emma will represent us. And then Doris, to get back to you, Paul will briefly talk about his understanding of Friday and GLCAR, and then we'll get on to the 10 o'clock presentations.
Well, we're going forward to GLCAR with the minimum standards for school approval, 306 standards. As you remember, you approved them at the last meeting, and they're going forward to GLCAR now. They've already been reviewed by them. Some comments were made, and there's been a few changes based on their comments specific to the timelines. That was where the issue was. So in the rules now, we have the current rules for the time that they will be in effect. And then if there is a later date for approval of the standards, then the new language is in place for the new standards. So that's where it stands, and we'll be there on 9 o'clock on the 17th.
Any questions of Paul?
We're going to substantive changes on, or is it just timelines we're talking here, or?
Actually, there's no changes to the timelines. It's really more the formatting. But in what you had seen last time, it just had the new section, and it said it would be in effect as of such and such a date. What GLCAR, the attorneys at GLCAR said is, well, if it's not going to be in effect for a year or two, then you need to have the old language in there for that period of time.
But they're not sending it back for changes in like the psychological services or anything like that, that's just time of.
Correct.
I think that was the question.
Yeah, that's what we know, Doris, so I'm sure you'll be at that meeting on Friday. Okay, So I see Robin and Tammy here on educator leadership, the 10 o'clock presentation, that's on 5A of your package, so come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Tom. Should I just jump in?
Yeah, jump in, introduce yourselves, and
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for receiving us this morning. We really are extremely excited to be here and consider it an honor. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Robin Comstock. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. And to my right is Tammy Boucher, who's been contracted by the Chamber of Commerce. Tammy is the owner and operator of Boucher Marketing and an advocate and a huge proponent of public education. So she's been contracted by the Chamber of Commerce for the program that I'm about to tell you about. So just to jump in, I'm here today to tell you about the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce Education Initiative. About a year and a half ago, the Chamber was just starting at the beginning, was under a lot of pressure to provide a business voice to the subject of public education, K through 12 in Manchester. And after months of escalating pressure from business leaders asking where was the Chamber in this subject, what was the Chamber's role, and could the Chamber provide some leadership? The business leaders of the community around the many issues that surround, concerns around public education, the quality and character of it in the city of Manchester. Those concerns resonated with me, and I went to my board a year ago, November. They agreed that an initiative should be put together. And very long story, fast forward, within a couple of months, I had several volunteers from our membership indicating that they wanted to be involved and that they wanted to help out. By January of 13, I decided, given that a new superintendent was arriving in Manchester, and that also we were in the process of conducting a lot of data and research about the quality and character of education in Manchester, that it was important that we didn't interfere or undermine any of those efforts. And so, because of those reasons, it was important that we did a program that was doable, actionable, and tactical versus strategic. We could back up and do strategic once our new superintendent were to arrive. So after a few more months of work, we created a program that we call Educator Leadership Greater Manchester. And this program is focused on teachers. Initially, we were talking about programming that would be applicable to the students. We decided that we really needed to talk to the teachers because they are the obvious bridge to the students, especially as it pertains to workplace readiness, the skills and social characters that kids need to qualify for desirable jobs by members of the business community. We also felt that teachers need positive and productive relationships with business leaders. And if those relationships were established and nurtured, good things could happen between educators and business leaders. So again, we created a program called Educator Leadership Greater Manchester. It's a 9-month program. It has been underwritten by each of the colleges and universities in the city of Manchester and the Radisson Inn. And this program is designed, the Radisson Hotel and Conference Center. This program has been designed so...
Center of New Hampshire?
The Center of New Hampshire. I'm only the chamber president, thank you, sir. What is their name? Thank you so much. So, yes, the Radisson came on very quickly because they are hiring so many kids directly out of high school, and we're very excited to be a sponsor. So we designed modules, one module to occur every month in a specific area or industry. The teachers actually gather at the Center of New Hampshire at the Radisson Hotel in their lobby. We give them a bag of a granola bar, a bottle of water, and an apple, of course. And our Manchester Transit Authority has donated a yellow school bus, which pulls up, and these teachers get on this bus, and we go to a place of business. We see 2 CEOs, the head of HR and hiring for the host business, the host location, and a guest host is also brought in. So the teachers are being exposed to at least 2 businesses, 2 CEOs, 2 HR directors. And we have a conversation about what those businesses are experiencing and what they see in candidates that come out of the public schools of Manchester to their workplace for jobs.
what they wish they saw more of, what they wish they saw less of, and what the most important critical attributes of a potential candidate for their place of employment is. We rolled this program out in October, September, thank you, and we've held one module every month since with, I'm not just saying this because I'm in front of you today, but with so much enthusiasm and excitement. It's very affirming and it feels good and right. So we're here today to explain this program to you and share it with you, but before we wrap in the time that we have, I really would like, if I may, to have Tammy talk about some of the current programs and some of the feedback she's getting, and then I can kind of tie it down and, of course, respond to any questions you may have. So Tammy, could you talk a little bit about it?
First of all, I have to tell you, I thought Robin was crazy when she came to me in June and said, can you bring this program to life by September? And I said, of 2014? She's like, no, 2013. So I thought she was crazy, but I'll tell you what ended up being crazy was how quickly it came together. I mean, Robin mentioned the major sponsors that immediately stepped to the plate. We got the materials prepared. The educators were really excited. Because it came together so quickly, it was September, and we were trying to recruit teachers, who you can imagine are quite busy at that time. So we weren't really sure how that was going to go, and it just was amazing. Every business that we went to say, do you want to participate, step to the plate. We have businesses asking us to participate and wanting to become involved, so we're in a really great position right now. I can tell you, standing here honestly, we have received nothing but positive feedback. We have not gotten one negative comment to date. And one business representative said, this program is a valuable tool for recruiting and a great way to develop and build institutional and personal relationships with teachers and students. And that's really what the educators have been saying to us as well. I know we included in your packet some educator comments. There were a couple that came in since then that I thought would be important to share with you because I really think they speak to the heart of why we're all doing this. One educator said, as the Extended Learning Opportunity Coordinator at West High School, I found the Educator Leadership Program a valuable asset to assist teachers to get connected to the community. It's my job to help students explore their career interests, and I'm very excited to be a part of this pilot program because I am better at informing and helping students when I know just what Manchester has to offer students for job opportunities. Moreover, the program is helping to find ways for students to earn credits with local businesses, career days, job shadows, internships, and use of business owners as mentors. Every one of our speakers handed out their business cards and said, let me come to your class, tell me what you need, and we'll make it happen. It's also great to make connections in the community of Manchester and hear from the professionals what kind of qualities they're looking for in employees. We see the teachers sitting there and adamantly, like, quickly writing notes and stuff, because I think one of them was Public Safety Day that we did. And people, you know, the police officer said, yeah, that's great, we can teach people to use guns or to do the other sort of public safety aspects. What we're finding is we don't have students who can sit here and pass the oral exams because they can't look you in the eye and talk to you and have a conversation. And that was really, for the educators, you could see that really spoke to them as to what they were hearing. Another educator said, I've been able to share valuable information with my students as to what's expected from them in the future. And it's created some amazing class discussions. I reinforced the value of writing, oral communications, and hard work. Very awesome program and step in the right direction to link community and schools and make education more relevant for our students. And then perhaps the most poignant comment of all that came in from an educator, they said, I think the program is tremendous. Each time I attend a seminar, I discuss it with my sophomores and seniors and have had a terrific response. 2 senior girls have already applied to BAE's high school internship program. It inspires me to focus my attention on students' abilities and skills, as well as brings real-life situations into the classroom to have students focus better on their education as a preparation for life. And we really think that life, that's what this program is about. It's about enabling the teachers to prepare the students today to succeed in life tomorrow. It's working. We'd love to see what's happening in Manchester replicated throughout the state. And with that, I'll turn it to Robin to kind of close with what we would hope educated leadership maybe could do moving forward.
All right, thank you, Tammy, well done. I would just add to that, I think it's really important to know, since you're in the leadership roles of public education, that the premise of this program, the primary premise, is that teachers go to college, they go to internship, and they pop into the classroom. They just, to no fault of their own, they're on a career course, they're doing the right thing for where they want to end up, but they just haven't had that practical, applicable experience that is an appropriate match for an institution like a Chamber of Commerce. So, again, quite exciting. And then finally, I would just say, to add to your notes, I'm being so honest when I tell you, I was just completely stunned with, on the first day, which is public safety, fire and police, chief of fire, chief of police, and each of their HR people came. At the end of the day, I asked them, what is it that you want to say to teachers that if they see a budding characteristic or a personality trait that could be nurtured, what is it that they should look for and what would they be seeing? And I wonder if it would surprise, the answer would surprise you as much as it did me. We still talk about it. They said compassion and honesty. It's not about chasing lights and sirens. To be a firefighter or to be a police officer, you have to be honest and you have to have compassion. And if you see students that are driven by those personality traits and have a propensity to demonstrate them in strong ways, they're the perfect candidate to become a police officer or a firefighter. Who would have thought of that before we heard them say that? I wouldn't have. So it's been quite eye-opening. So yes, we're up and running on this program. I hope that it has a very long life. I believe that it will. I can already see it maturing and growing. We've had a lot of requests from other schools within our catchment area. We've had a lot of superficial discussions about how this program could be applied to the state arena and the state agenda. And again, I'm so pleased, thank you Tom so much for, and all of you for welcoming us today, because I was anxious to talk to you to let you know that I'm very excited about discussing the role of this program in the statewide arena in ways that may be appropriate and good matches from your perspective, and to also have conversations more immediately, certainly throughout the region of the greater Manchester area. So that's what we've been able to do this year, and thank you.
It's terrific. So you have Health Day tomorrow, right, looks like, and then in the spring you have Advanced Manufacturing and STEM, just for you, Gary.
Well done.
So, and the schools are very supportive of the teachers taking time away from.
Yes, you know, Tom, I have to tell you, I've only worked with the Manchester School District on this program, but both superintendents and the assistant superintendents and the principals of each school have been enormously supportive. I've attended all of their committee meetings and staff meetings, and the assistant superintendent, and again, the superintendent as well, literally are communicating with me on weekends and late at night, what are we doing, how can we do it. We're looking at ways so that teachers can there is a fee for this program, and we're looking at ways for teachers to use development monies available to them for professional enhancement. And we're also looking at ways to provide advanced credentials for them through the community college and other arenas as well. We're going to continue pursuing those.
And this, you know, when Robin mentioned this program to me, and Robin came yesterday to the Business and Education Coalition meeting, and this is another example. I'm not sure who around the room had actually, probably you had heard of this program, Jim, but this is just, there's so much good stuff going out there, and to be able to perhaps go beyond within your catchment area, maybe even and beyond. There used to be a similar program called Leadership Teacher that kind of went away, and I think it would be great if this was institutionalized and stayed, because I think getting business leaders and educators together, that gets back, Cindy, to your point of college and career and ready, is obviously if the teachers know what business leaders want, and whether it's whether it's the compassion trait or whether it's wanting to make sure people know how to work in teams, and that 8:30 means 8:30 and things like that. I mean, that's the information that gets imparted from the business folks to the teachers. So what's the best way, how can the State Board of Ed help at this point?
I think at this point, to me, strategically speaking, we should talk further and talk about your interests in developing this on a larger scale. I would introduce a representative from this body to my board of directors and pursue that discussion in ways that make most sense for the State Board and for the Chamber's board of directors, and I would be very anxious to facilitate that.
Okay, we'll add that to our coming retreat.
Your short to-do list.
Well, yeah, this is great. This is great. It's great to see. I commend you on your passion for doing it, and we all know that there's a need, so exciting. So good luck at Health Day tomorrow.
Also, is there a state organization of chambers of commerce? I mean, is it an active group that you could yourselves go out and really, you know, talk about this to other chambers of commerce? I don't know how it works.
We do have a state association. It's very informal. There are, I think, almost 70 chambers in the state, if you can believe it. Most of them quite small. But that's actually a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. So thank you for that suggestion. I'll make sure it's added to their agenda. Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
Also, schools have career educator people designated, or in the case of Manchester, you mentioned an ELO person, so, you know, gathering those folks together.
Great idea. Yeah, thank you for the ideas. They're so valuable. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to recommend reaching out to your colleagues in the Lakes region. There's a group called Leadership Lakes Region, which has been operational for the better part of a decade. So you're justified in having faith and longevity, but it might be a good place to start.
Thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, chambers have great relations. We're the type that drop everything for one another, so I would be very anxious to talk to them.
Do you know whether there's been any effort to recruit any of the special education staff?
Because it was so quick this year, it was a pretty quick recruitment process, but we reached out to every, and that's why we purposely used, we originally called it teacher, and then we said, wait a minute, it's not just teachers, it could be guidance counselors, it could be anybody. So we reached out to everyone, so we didn't specifically make a specific effort to that group, but they were certainly included in our outreach efforts. One of the things that we're hoping to improve upon moving forward from this pilot program is we have only one middle school participant this year. I mean, we really want to start at a younger age. So we're hoping that next year we can get more middle school educators into the program. This year it's primarily high school. But we're definitely looking for anyone within the school district who can benefit from participation in this.
Yeah, just because our focus on college and career ready has intentionally encompassed that means for everyone.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so it would be great to make that connection also.
You know,
This is terrific.
Thank you so much. The principals have proven to be a great bridge to us, and going to their staff meetings has been helpful. So the next discussion I have with them, I'll talk about that as well. They've really been the advocate on the campus. And as we mature this, we talked about we need to get a committee member on each campus, and serving as a liaison to guidance counselors and teachers and administrative staff. So hopefully that'll be our next iteration.
Great.
We're gonna say that if, I don't know how it looks at this point in time, but if you had an outline that was such that schools would offer professional development credits for attendance, you could hold a seminar, you could, any school that has a career and tech ed center with a school to work coordinator, and for those people, the business education teachers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you could do it so they could go attend, get professional development credit, it would be very important.
Yes.
And then I think plays in that is tracking a measurement of success.
A lot of people have talked about that
Somehow.
aspect of this. You're absolutely right.
What difference does it make to the graduates of that
Yeah.
system that the teachers are teaching?
Good point.
And
Very
the
good
teachers
point.
informally, to that point, have been putting together sort of informal portfolios, for lack of a better word, talking about their learnings and what they're then taking back to the classroom. So solidifying that and making it a little more formal, I think is important. We also did talk to New England, and Robin kind of referenced this, New England College this year, who did offer a credit program at their school. However, it didn't meet the particular teachers that were in this program's needs, so that's definitely an area for next year that we're gonna look at with other colleges, and how do we make it be what the educators need it to be.
Okay, Robin and Tammy, thank you.
Thank
Stay
you,
in touch
Dave.
with us.
And you're welcome to come to any of our programs,
Yeah.
so if you'd like to come, we'd love to have you.
Keep it going.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Yeah. Okay, so Stanley and Bob, why don't you set up, we'll take a 2-minute environmental break.
You're welcome.